Hi everyone, I'm Mr. Watson, and in this video I'm going to be looking at comparison. This is something a few people have asked me to go over, so I'm going to try and explain how to compare in as straightforward a way as possible. With that in mind, comparison is basically when you look for these two things: similarities and differences. Once you've identified a similarity or a difference, or both, it's then about how you put that into writing. So, the way to compare clearly is to use the right language to signpost that you are comparing, and these signposts come in the form of comparative discourse markers. If you use these in your writing, it makes it incredibly obvious that you are attempting to compare. Now, here are 10 examples that you could use: 5 for comparing similarities and 5 for comparing differences. Now, this list is not exhaustive. There are many more discourse markers that you could use, but for this video and in the name of keeping things straightforward, I've chosen these 10. So, how do we apply these to some writing? Here is a very basic example. We have 2 apples. One is green and one is red. If we bring back the discourse markers from earlier, we can look at how to compare these apples. If we were comparing similarities, we could write, the first image is of an apple. Similarly, the second image is also of an apple. And if we were comparing differences, we could write, the apple on the left is green, whereas the apple on the right is red. Notice how we're using the comparative discourse markers to clearly indicate that we are comparing. Now, instead of comparing images, let's say we're trying to compare 2 pieces of text. Here we have A and B. A says, I hate apples because they taste awful. B says, I love apples because they give me energy. Both A and B are talking about apples and telling us their opinion on them, so that's a similarity. However, their actual opinions on apples are different. So, if we were to write this up as a comparison, and again, using some of the discourse markers from earlier, we could write, both A and B give their opinion on apples. However, A tells us that they hate apples, whereas B explains that they love apples. So this is a very straightforward comparison. And if you're looking at getting more marks, then you have to be specific and detailed. With that in mind, once we've identified the similarities or differences, we can then bring in our evidence from both sides. And this gives us yet another opportunity to compare. Here, I've taken the response we've just written and extended it by zooming in on a word from both A and B that backs up my point. So then we end up with, both A and B give their opinion on apples. However, A tells us that they hate apples, whereas B explains that they love apples. The use of the adjective awful tells us that A finds the experience of eating an apple incredibly unpleasant. On the other hand, B's use of the noun energy implies that they enjoy eating apples because of the physical benefits they can give. Okay, let's move away from apples to something else. Fire. We have A and B again giving us their opinion of the flames. A says the flames snapped at the people nearby, and B says the flames danced in the heat. This time, their opinions are more subtle. They are not explicitly telling us what they think. Instead, we have to do a bit of work and look for the clues in the way they each describe the flames. So let's also say that we have a question based on these 2 examples. Compare how the 2 writers convey their attitudes towards the fire. This is a question that's very similar to the type you can expect to get in AQA's Language Paper 2, Question 4. We're looking at attitudes of the writers and we need to compare. So all we need to do is follow the exact same steps as earlier. We identify any similarities or differences. In this case, both A and B are discussing how the flames are moving, but they are both giving off different impressions. A seems to suggest that the flames are dangerous, but B creates the impression that they are more elegant and pleasant to watch. What we've just done is compare. So what it's all about now is just getting it into a piece of writing. So again, how do we do that? We use our discourse markers. Both A and B describe how the flames of the fire are moving. However, A creates the impression that the flames are dangerous, whereas B suggests that the flames are elegant. Now, once again, to develop this answer further, we need to bring in some evidence that supports what we're saying. In this example, I've zoomed in on snapped and danced, not just because they seem like good words, but because they back up what I've said about the opinions of A and B. Snapped conveys aggression, danced conveys elegance. So, we end up with both A and B describe how the flames of the fire are moving. However, A creates the impression that the flames are dangerous, whereas B suggests that the flames are elegant. The verb snapped implies that A thinks the flames are aggressive, suggesting that they are trying to attack the people nearby. In contrast, B seems to believe that the flames are more beautiful, with the use of the verb danced, conveying that there is a pleasantness and attractiveness to the way in which they move. Now, we could develop this even further and compare the two writers' intentions, or even the direct impact and emotional response that each technique has on the reader. But for now, and for this video, we'll leave it here. So I hope this was helpful. The best way to learn to compare fluently, like with most things, is to practice doing it. The more you do it, the more confidence you'll gain. So thanks for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.